Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumu, and it's great to be back on the show again. I'm holding a lovely book here, Brick by Brick. A young couple living in Lagos in a 2-bedroom apartment. One day, the wife gets pregnant and they realize they needed a bigger apartment for their growing family. So they had two options. One, either rent a larger apartment, or two, build a house. So they discussed that and agreed that it was better to build a house. Initially, they thought it was going to be an impossible task, but later on, they found out that it was doable. So they went about building their own house. Now, the author of this book has brilliantly used this story to teach us the process, the challenges, and what it takes to build your own personal house. Great book. We all want to build houses and keep building houses. If you want to do that, you'll learn a lot from this book titled Brick by Brick. Now, the author happens to be an architect who is married to an architect, and they have built their own houses. So who better to teach us how to build our own houses than our special guest for today? So let's get to meet with her and then dig into our conversation we had reviewing this book titled Brick by Brick. Enjoy this.
Brenda Unuawero is a writer and a certified architect with over 16 years experience. She is a graduate of Ambrose Ali University, Ekpoma. Brenda coaches women on writing and time management. In Brick by Brick, Brenda uses her storytelling skills and experiences to explain the nitty-gritty of building a house.
Brenda, nice to have you on Channels Book Club.
Super excited to be here.
Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Architect Brenda. You guys don't call yourselves, you don't use your titles, do you?
You know, some people do. And when we were in school, we had to call our lecturers architect. You know, but in the professional world, we don't do that.
You don't really do that.
Yeah.
What's it like being an architect? By day, you're an architect. By night, you write.
Right.
You've written six books, right?
Six books apart from this one.
Apart from this. So this is your 7th.
Right.
I mean, I know it is very tedious, very difficult, very challenging, you know, to be an architect. You're constantly thinking of ideas, designing ideas, and meeting with clients and all that. So how do you juggle that with
writing?
Doing architecture during the day, writing during the night, and you've written up to 7?
Right. How do I juggle it? I'd say that writing comes easily to me. You know, I tell people a lot that it's a gift, because it comes easy to me. And I also find out that we have a lot of free time if we think about it. Most people say, oh, I'm busy, but there are many pockets of time within the day which you can do lots of things with. For example, when I started writing my first book, all I had to do was to wake up an hour earlier every day. And I gave in 1 hour to this writing. And then I just found out that I could write 1,000 words a day for that 1 hour. And before you know, in 40 days, I've done 40,000 words. And the book is done.
1,000 words a day, every hour.
I didn't have to sit down and block one whole week to write. I didn't have to sit down and block 3. I just took 1 hour extra every day.
Fantastic. That's a tip. You've given us a tip.
Right.
There are so many people out there who've always been talking about writing. I don't have time.
And it seems like you don't have time.
Oh, yeah.
There's time.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so this book, Brick by Brick, a couple's journey to building their own home and the lessons learned. Good book.
Thank you.
Let's explain what this book is about. It's a fictional story that you have used to teach couples how to build their own houses. Am I correct? Please.
Very correct.
Elaborate on that.
Okay, so the thing about the book is I found out that from taking polls on Facebook, I asked people, you know, what would you rather do? Would you rather buy a house or would you rather build a house? And there was a 50-50 split, you know, especially in Lagos. And so I engaged people that wanted to buy a house. I said, why would you want to buy a house? I mean, you're stuck with anything that they build. And, you know, when you can have a choice of exactly your own specifications, why would you want to buy a house? And they said, oh, the process for building is so tough. You know, they don't want to deal with Omonile. They don't want to deal with the government. They don't want to do. And I'm like, okay. Some don't even understand the process. And I said, what if somebody broke down the process to you and simplified it? Would you reconsider? You know, I likened it to, you know, you're going for a party, right? And then you go to the shop and pick a dress off the shelf, or would you go to a designer and have a custom-made dress for you that everybody would turn heads for? And they were like, okay, I think I want custom-made. And so we started having the conversation. And I realized that there was a gap, you know, there was a need. People needed to understand the process and how professionals could walk you through the process, because many people didn't even know what an architect is or what they do. You know, if you ask people on the street, the few ones that even know what an architect is, they will tell you, oh, the guys that design houses. But an architect does so much more in the entire building process. And so I decided that, you know, I was going to take it upon myself to enlighten people, to teach them. You know, you are shortchanging yourself if you don't use an architect. Yeah. So I'm just like, that's what the book was about.
That's what you decided to. But before that, you had been teaching people on your Facebook page.
Right.
You know, on basics of architecture. And
yeah,
what
so I had two running programs. One was called Waiting Architects They Do Self.
Waiting Architects They Do Self on Facebook.
Yeah, it was so, because it was just basically, okay, so every day, it was once a week, and I would explain, you know, a different part of the building. Maybe today I wanted to explain about foundations. You know, I could even come and tell you a story from a salon, how somebody did her hair and it cost so much because she had to do some work on the hair before the style. You know, I'll just break it down and they'll be like, oh my God, why didn't anybody ever tell us this way? You know, and the second one was Ask Your Architect. So basically people could send me questions. Yeah, send me questions. I'll take the questions and generally use it to teach. You know, so it was really very engaging, and I got a lot of people asking questions, learning, and they were like, "Where's the book? Where is the book?"
So that was part of what put you under pressure. I mean, encouraged you to write this book.
Absolutely.
Now, this book is unique in the sense that, on the one hand, it is a fictional story.
Right.
Lara and Larry, young couple.
Right.
Lara is pregnant. They already have one child, and they live in a rented apartment.
Right.
And without giving too much away, they wanted to have a bigger space.
Right.
And Larry thought that, hey, let's go and rent a bigger space.
Right.
Which would have cost them 6 million.
Right.
And Lara says, are you okay? You want to go and spend 6 million to go and rent a bigger space? Why don't we use the money to go and buy a plot of land? And so started the story.
Right.
Let's not give everything away.
They have to get the book to find out.
So there's that fictional story going on between Lara and Larry, right? Mm-hmm. And then you now list the book at the end of each chapter with like home lessons. Home lessons, you know, where it's no longer fictional, but actual lessons. Why did you use this style to write this book?
Okay, so I thought a story is good, right? And everybody's going to learn from stories without even knowing that they've learned. But I also want to draw your attention to the important part of what you have learned, you know, such that by the time you have finished the book, you will know what you did learn, so that you don't just think, oh, that was a good story, but what did I learn? You actually have the summary done for you. So I've put the home lessons, I've even put exercises for you to think through your own project. And I've even gone ahead to have a workbook of this book. The workbook now has only the home lessons and the exercises. So all the long story, if you don't like story, you don't like to renchi, you're like, please, your story is too much. Give me what I want. Yeah. You have the workbook for you. And that one is, you know, is just pick the workbook. And it's
interesting. I've read a few books like this, like the one I think Smart Money Woman,
yeah.
By,
RSA Ugo.
Yes. Lovely book.
Excellent
book. Lovely book. Where she also used a fictional story to teach about money.
Right.
You know, and I have a few other authors that I've read. I think it's very powerful when you use tales or stories to teach lessons, right?
Because that was how our parents taught us. If you think about it, you know, when we were young and grandparents were telling you stories, they were not just telling you stories of the tortoise and the hare. You know, each of those stories had a moral. They always ended up by, what is the moral of the story? They force you to think about it. So you see that it wasn't just entertainment. The stories actually carried lessons. So there's no human being that would listen to a story and not pick the lessons very quickly. As a matter of fact, even if you didn't want to read a book on architecture, you may think that's too technical, right? What do I want to do about architecture? Why do I need a book on architecture? But if you're just less busy and you're on a flight and you read this book and in 1 hour you're done, you find, oh my God, I learned so much. And then you now want to go back to the book again, So it's a powerful way of teaching every single subject.
But this book is not just about architecture. I mean, the architect is just one professional in the whole chain.
So we don't like to say it that way.
You don't like to say that. You always like to feel like you're the only one.
So no. I mean, I actually introduced all the professionals, right? So the architect is the core professional in the building, right? He's the leader of the building team.
Some other people.
So basically, he's the first port of call for the client and the one that helps you through the entire process. So the other professionals are very important, and that's why I spend time explaining who they are and what they do in the book, because many people even think, when you ask somebody that, oh, you want to build a house, and say, do you need engineering drawings? They'll be like, what do I need engineering drawings for? So many people don't even know that they need these other professionals. So that's why I spend time explaining who they are in the book.
The characters of Lara and Larry, the couple in this book, do they typify most people? Lara is prudent. Larry is spontaneous. And you explain through the story how those traits, those characteristics affected or almost affected their decision making.
Right.
So while Larry wanted to quickly go and let's go and rent somewhere that is bigger, Lara was like, hey, calm down.
Yeah.
Why don't we put that money into buying a plot of land? Those two characters, do they typify a whole lot of people and couples?
So many times, what I've found in when talking to clients is that most times husband and wife are on different poles. It's very
somebody's Lara, somebody's Larry.
Yes. So I mean, either way, either the wife is the one that is spontaneous and the man is the one that is not, or vice versa. But there are always people like this. In very rare occasions, you can find both of them being the same thing, because you know how they say opposites attract. So many of them end up being opposite. So the way to walk through each person's strengths and so the book generally just teaches you that, even that your husband's spontaneity is useful. Even that your wife's prudence is useful. So if you read through the book and see what the characters did in the entire process, you can even use your wife better or use your husband better, use their strengths better in your building process. Instead of just saying, oh God, my wife's wala is too much, is Ijebu. Use her Ijebu properly, and use it to get your work done.
One of the things I saw here, I mean, because it's easy to just focus on the hard facts of, architecture, building and all that. And when I'm reading, I'm always trying to dig into the whole story,
right,
and get all the facets of the whole thing. It's amazing how our emotions come to play in that whole building process.
Oh, absolutely.
And I like the way you described that. You brought that into the story. I don't know whether that was intentional.
It was.
It was.
It was. There was even a bit of marriage lessons in the book, eh?
Oh yeah, marriage lessons, yeah. Because as much as Larry disagreed with Lara about buying a plot of land he wanted to rent, at the end of the day, he calmed down and listened, thought about what his wife said, listened,
right.
And they got on the same page. If he had been,
I'm the man of the house.
Yeah, egoistic, and I'm the man of the house, you can't tell me anything, they probably would have gone to rent. And that would have cost them a lot of money, right?
Right, and they would have blown their entire savings, which was where Lara was coming from. This is our savings. It's not like it took us a while to get this bulk money. Do you want to blow everything on the rent? And then when that is over, what next? So he had to sit down and listen. He had to think about it. I mean, some people will say, oh, the way we got it, we'll get another one, or we'll get better jobs, or we'll get more paying jobs. Many people are very optimistic. But the truth is, in today's climate, especially with the way our economy is, it's very important to be prudent. It's very important to think, to invest, and what is the better way of doing something? Always think about it. How can I save? How can I stretch this money more? It's a totally important skill right now.
Brenda, you've done well. There was also the angle of Itohan. Is that the name of Itohan? Was
yes.
Lara's friend.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a factor of Lara's friend here.
Yes.
And all these things play. I mean, in real life,
It happens.
that's the way it works, right?
Absolutely.
Goodness me.
Absolutely.
And her own husband, Emeka, right?
Yes.
And
Very rich guy. He wanted to panic my people.
oh my goodness. Now, I like your home lessons.
Okay, thank you.
A reader may decide not to even read the story.
I'm telling you.
Just flip through the home lesson 1, go to home lesson 2, go to home lesson 3, forget about the story, and that is rich enough. Home lesson 1, you said you must have a budget.
Absolutely.
And you wrote, it is not enough to want to change your home. You must have a budget. Agree with your partner about it, regardless of who is paying, and communicate with the agents helping you to search for a house. Doing this saves you time and heartache. It is heartbreaking to view a house, fall in love with it, and afterwards realize that you cannot afford it. Hasn't that happened to most of us?
You know.
Pro tip, email and all that. So these are the kind of lessons you put after a chapter.
Right.
And this is a very powerful one. You must have a budget, which was one of the core themes of that chapter, right?
Yes.
Why did you pick this particular one as home lesson 1?
Because the entire story of that first chapter, all the drama of going to see one house, see the other house, see this and see that, they had not discussed their budget. And as such, they hadn't communicated to the agent. They just told the agent, we're looking for a house. And of course, the agent will look for a bigger house for you because his commission is based on what you pay. So he is looking for the expensive houses for you because it makes his commission bigger. So except you communicate your budget and say, this is what I want, or this is the area I want the house, and this is how much I have, you just find out that you're going round and round. Every Saturday, you're looking at houses, and then you're not getting anywhere. So it's really important to discuss a budget. I mean, some people will say, I'm the one paying. Why does my wife have to have an input? But guess what? Your wife may have some skills. Your wife may know some people. Your wife may know some things. She may have gone through the process of building a house with her father in her father's house or somewhere, and she may know something. And just because she's not paying doesn't mean that she cannot have a voice in the conversation. So that's why I said, have a budget and have a discussion with your partner.
Well done, Brenda. Nice to have you on Channel's Book Club, a
Thank
couple's
you.
journey to building their own home and the lessons learned. Hope a lot of couples will pick up this one.
They totally should. And you can even gift your friends. If you have a house already, gift your friends that don't. They will pray for you.
Well done. Well done, Brenda. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So many things to learn there. So many things to learn from this book titled Brick by Brick. Up next is the book launch of a man who rose from grass to grace. I love the stories of entrepreneurs. Nigerian entrepreneurs particularly, I have tremendous respect for them. So many challenges, so many obstacles, so many things to overcome in this country to start a business from the scratch and build it. So this book is an inspiring book about an inspiring man. Let's enjoy this book launch.
Friends and family gather as Nigerian entrepreneur and founder of Lapo Microfinance Bank, Dr. Godwin Egiamusoy, launches his book, Touching Lives, My Lapo Journey. The 381-page memoir details extensively Godwin Egiamusoy's contributions and role in the evolution of the microfinance subsector of the finance industry.
It documents the strategies adopted by the founder and his team of seasoned directors and colleagues in growing the Lapo idea, institutionalizing it, and creating effective opportunities for individuals. The institutionalization of Lapo and the steps taken to do that, which is something that everyone that has a small enterprise that wants to upscale it needs to look at. So with regard to scaling up, this section looks at the setting up of the microfinance bank. Remember that the life we're talking about here of these enterprises began with Leap Above Poverty, which is a not-for-profit organization.
Captains of Industry celebrate the author for his exceptional service in the financial services sector.
You're a man of vision, a visionary leader. You are hardworking. You are very consistent. And with all this, you are very humble. This man started from very humble beginning. You read it. To lead people out of poverty and still run a profitable business. Lifting out of poverty is not charity. It made people realize that it's not charity.
The chief launcher, who is the chairman of the United Bank of Africa, UBA, Tony Elumelu, is represented by Samson Aneke, Directorate Head, Southwest, UBA. He leads others to unveil the book to all present.
This book that will bless souls for his kingdom. Thank you.
Chairman of Lapo Group, Osayin Emokbai, shares his reflections about the book.
I want to start from the elegance of the prose. You know, we're talking about the prose is elegant, and indeed, when I did the first chapter and second chapters, I actually wrote to him to actually commend that elegance of the prose, laced with humor. The interesting thing is that prose is elegant, but we also see the humor, and yet very simple to read and understand. But you can also identify the intellectual depth that challenged most of the best literature I have ever read. I have read quite a lot of books. And you know, in reading this is one of the finest and the very best I have ever read.
The author, Godwin A. Gyamusoy, who is the pioneer managing director, Lapo Microfinance Bank, recommends the need for knowledge to be passed across.
The foundation that was laid even before the Lapo journey, that has been clearly, outlined in the book. Of course, you have lessons, challenges, victories during the sowing of what we call Lift Above Poverty organization today, Lapo, scaling it up, and of course the challenges of reaching out to a large number of people, not only in Nigeria but also in Sierra Leone. These are things that will be there. Additionally, this book has a lot, to say about how is it possible for enterprises, especially social enterprises, to make impact on the life of ordinary people, improving the condition of living of members of their household. This book has a lot of tips and lessons to learn.
One of the guests acknowledges the quality and relevance of the new book.
The story itself is one of that shows that life works in cycles. That shows that as things rise, they fall. As they fall, they rise. And it's something good to understand in this difficult time economically, that this gentleman went through it 30 years ago. And the generation is 30 years. So life finds a way. We will recover. We will look to these stories to learn lessons that we learned, so that at least we know that we are standing on the shoulders of giants, so we can see further, so we do not repeat their mistakes.
The wife of the author, Ngozi Gyamusoy, wants people to understand the importance of humble beginnings.
People will learn from it and know how to begin from a humble start. Because majority of our men especially, they don't want to start anything small, they want it big. And getting resources to start it big is always a problem. But we started just 300 naira to 3 women, 100 naira each. So I think that's one of the major lessons you teach people. Don't just jump into it, start little and become a master of it. Because we started little, today is a master of microfinance.
Apart from narrating the inspiring story of a man who rose from grass to grace, Touching Lives promises to be a reference material for individuals and organizations keen on making positive social impact and improving living conditions for ordinary people.
I'm a big advocate of successful business leaders, successful political leaders, religious leaders, leaders in all spheres of life, writing their own stories and using those stories to inspire the rest of us. And more importantly, documenting those stories for posterity's sake. So that was really inspiring there. This is where we have to draw curtains on today's episode. As always, we'll be very delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.